So let's talk about the two kinds of perfectionism when you're thinking about narcissistic relationships. Listen, perfectionism is a central theme in narcissistic relationships on both sides of the coin. And understanding this dynamic can potentially help save you a lot of time in these relationships, as well as a lot of anguish. So let's start with the perfectionism on the side of the narcissistic person. It's a classical part of the pattern. It's part of the grandiosity and a delusional belief that something or someone could actually be perfect. And most importantly, that they are or can be perfect. This perfectionism is often the hub of a wheel from which a lot of the problems of the narcissistic relationship emanate. Again, it's part of the grandiosity, the belief that the narcissistic person even has the potential or the capability to be perfect. It's a core reason that narcissistic people spin out so often, because it is impossible for life or people or circumstances to be perfect. So that means that whenever they are not, which is pretty much every single day, narcissistic people can easily become enraged, because if things aren't perfect, then all of those idealized defenses that the narcissistic person has to protect that fragile ego, those fall away and the shame pops out, and the narcissistic person gets reactive and angry again. The challenge is that it isn't even clear what perfect means to the narcissistic person. So it seems like an arbitrary standard that the world, their lives, and even you, and even themselves are being held to. But what is most unreasonable is not only does the narcissistic person view the possibility of perfection as very real, but they also project that expectation on other people. And that is where your problems begin. Because that is the second form of perfection that shows up in these relationships. You attempting to be perfect. The idea that you should be perfect is projected onto you, and you may actually bite and take the bait. There is the eternal anxiety and belief in these relationships that it is possible to read the narcissistic person's mind, to get everything just right, to say the right thing in the right tone of voice at the right time, and do what they want the way they want it done, that there is a way to get it just right. This is a particular issue for the children of narcissistic parents who may not understand that this expectation is completely unreasonable. The child is going to do whatever it takes to be loved or seen. So getting everything just right is part of that. And the child's attempts at perfection often leave the child anxious, obsessive, compulsive, and exhausted. Whether it is anticipating the parent's needs, keeping the room just so, getting the grades, getting the trophy, not existing unless they exist the way the parent wants. So lots of folks are already familiar with this perfectionism thing from childhood. But it also rears its head in adulthood. The trauma bond of childhood makes, in a way, almost more sense. The child has to bond and attach to the parent to survive. In adulthood, though, some people do wonder, why do people try to be perfect in these relationships? Well, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't meet a narcissist and say, I'm going to be perfect for them. It's a combination of things. First, the narcissistic person dangles a future fakey anticipatory thing. The idea, you just got it right, everything in this relationship is going to be just great. Second, it is the trauma bond and the justifications and the belief that maybe there are things that can be done to keep the peace and make the relationship work. Third, it is a way to keep the hope alive. Maybe I can get it just right and everything will be fine. Maybe this is just a me thing. Fourth, the days when you get it right run more smoothly. So you start to believe that there is a way to do it that makes it all work perfectly. Fifth, if you can just get it right, then you may be able to be a little more confident about what's happening in the relationship. And since you really can't get it perfect or just right, then you get to live in the purgatory of never knowing. And sixth, In a strange way, the perfectionism is something you can control. You can keep trying to be perfect. It's something you can control because you sure as hell can't control them. And in a chaotic situation, like a narcissistic relationship, before you get it, there is that sense, if you could get some sense of control, then you might even feel better, which we often think, because that's sort of like the antidote to anxiety, right? Folks in narcissistic relationships will talk about almost being obsessive, organized to within an inch of their lives with color-coded schedules and labeled closets or trips packed for in aspirational and perfect ways. And long after the relationship is over, or after you radically accept, this obsessive perfectionism may still be dogging you. It is a classical part of the trauma-bonded dynamic to sort of become a world-class personal assistant when you are a narcissistic person's partner. And it's unfortunate because it is time-consuming and it is unnecessary. This dance of perfectionism is sort of a classical dynamic in the narcissistic relationship. And it results in a buildup of tension that never quite abates. The narcissistic person is never quite content because they actually believe that perfection is possible and are forever pissed off at you for when it's not. You may believe that the perfection that they project on you as a possibility is the answer to fixing this relationship. So you actually try to be perfect and you break your spirit, you break your heart, and you waste tons of time you can't get back. The perfectionism is a defense for the narcissistic person to manage their shame and as a hedge against their insecurity. And that is not your problem. You can't fix that. So once you understand it, it can help you understand that whether you do it perfectly or not, it doesn't matter because you don't even know what the hell they're looking for. I don't think they know what they're looking for. You can't get all of that obsessive time back. And that quest for perfection can pull you away from children, from other meaningful pursuits, from friendships, from things that matter to you, and just from the joy of life. The narcissistic person is always going to be unsatisfied, and sacrificing yourself won't help. The best way to take back control in these relationships is to radically accept and to see it clearly. And ultimately, once we understand that, and we understand that the perfectionism was a false narrative that was sold to us, there hopefully is a little anger for a minute because it actually is quite aggravating. But the day you can stop getting stuck in that impossible dance is removing one big tether that keeps you stuck to the narcissistic relationship. Thanks again.